Hello to all my American history folks. Um, just wanted to share with you a short YouTube summary of this morning's class, Monday morning's class. This was for all cohorts, cohort A, B, and C. And again, this is just a review of our class, just to want to make sure that if you have at your fingertips a summary of what was discussed. And what I did is basically pulled together two different presentations. One presentation dealt with the evolution of global power. You see it there. And that was to share with you the concept that the world is always evolving. There's always a power struggle um, in terms of who is in control, who is the most influential government around the globe, whether it be the Romans, the Greeks, whether it be the British Empire, whether it be Germans under Adolf Hitler, or Japan under the Emperor Hirohito during the World War II era, or whether it be the United States versus the Soviet Union during the Cold War, or in your lifetime, the 21st century, China, Russia, and the United States being the global powers. Remember, my view of learning about history is it's better to study the events surrounding your life right now in November, December of 2020, and then look back to see what the causes of these events, these current events are. You'll have a much better understanding of the world around you if you understand the foundation and where it all comes from. So that was true with the issue of equality and civil rights. It's also true in terms of world power. So the first unit, the first presentation that we worked on was getting our head around the fact that the world always is evolving. Global power is always an issue. And looking at this slideshow, I gave you a sense of that change, what countries consider in expanding their power. We're looking at conflicts and wars, and while some classes just study the war itself, which is interesting to do, it is more rich in knowledge to understand what brought the world to war, why we were in Vietnam, why we had two world wars, the Cold War, the Spanish-American War. Interesting events, but more meaningful to know what went behind the events. And we got into imperialism defined, the race for global domination. I gave you some examples such as the Roman Empire, the Ottoman and Turkish Empire, the Russian, the Spanish, the British Empire, the Empire of Germany in the 1930s into the 1940s, headed by Adolf Hitler, the Empire of China, which is thousands of years old, of course, the Imperial Empire of Japan, 1942, just right after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and the U.S. and the Russian Empire, which made up the Cold War. So this cartoon showed you the power struggle between Russia and the United States, and China is emerging as the 21st century power and how they're going about doing it. So that was the first class presentation of this unit, and there was the grid that was your guidance through this first slideshow. And then I moved into, we got the basic global power concept. Then we got into how did the United States itself emerge as a global power. So we went from the global issue perspective to the perspective of the United States. How did the United States employ the same concepts that Turkey used during the Turkish Empire and that the Romans used during the Roman Empire? How do we get from sailing ships to aircraft carriers with technologically advanced aircraft? We use the same considerations. We use manifest destiny, that is, God blessed us to expand from the East Coast to the West Coast, And then we used that once we had established ourselves as a secure base of operation to expand beyond the confines of our borders. One of the major questionable activities of our nation's expansion, of course, was the Native American problem, as it was called, the Indian problem that the politicians of the day called it. And that problem was that people were living on that land prior to us getting to it. And we used fairly brutal methods to obtain that property. And I wanted to highlight that for you to make sure you have an understanding as Native American rights and issues you see in the news today in November, December of 2020. Again, you have a better understanding of what those issues are if you understand the history behind it. So I want to make sure I included that. Once we settled from east to west, we made it clear that we wanted to dominate the globe by the use of this cartoon in 1898, just as we were heading into the 20th century. And then we pursued our empire, both in Latin America, throughout the Pacific. You can see Hawaii, Midway, Wake, Guam, Philippines, all the way, stepping stone all the way from the United States to the Asian continent. That became the focus of World War II when the American empire came up against the Japanese empire. Things go well as long as one empire is in control, but when they bump up against another one seeking the same goals, German Empire versus the British Empire in the Atlantic, that's part of World War I, World War II. The United States versus Japan in the Pacific, again, one empire against another. And now in your lifetime, we're having three empires, the Russian, the Chinese, and the American Empire. At this point, hopefully still peaceful, but the pressure is mounting between these three empires of the 21st century. This video shows the bases, the extent of our power and control, and that we have over 800 military installations around the world. This is a pretty good video that shows those installations. It all started during the beginning of the industrial era, which will begin most likely next week, with the building of these steamed, ironclad battleships, the Great White Fleet. That was our first venture into global power. Sailed around the world using the newest technology. We painted them white to make sure that people could see us. Here's the route. There was no military purpose for these 16 battleships to sail around not sail, but steam around the world, other than to show the great power of the United States. This is captured in a couple videos, the Great White Fleet. Pretext was used to justify different military actions such as Vietnam, the Iraqi War. Pretext, of course, is the giving of a reason that really isn't truly the reason. An example of that I use often in class is that if one of you says to me that you have to go to the bathroom, and of course, I say, of course, go ahead. But the real reason is you want to meet somebody down the hallway or connect with somebody at the stairwell to say hello. The pretext was to go to the bathroom, but that wasn't the true reason. So you see that in a global way where a population is told one thing in order for the country to embark in a different policy. This was really clear in the Vietnam War. And I've got a clip about an event where it came to public attention that the whole basis of the Vietnam War was simply a pretext, wasn't true. And the Washington Post uncovered that truth. And the question was, should the Washington Post report it to the people or keep it a government secret? I encourage you to take a look at that video. And then you had the Spanish-American War. The pretext was that the Spaniards blew up one of our ships, the USS Maine in Cuba. It was simply a pretext. They did not blow up that ship. We want to take on the Spanish Empire. This video talks about both the Spanish Empire and the war we had with them, and the gathering of the force necessary required for the Panama Canal. That's a very informative video. I encourage you to take a look at it. Here was the result of the Panama Canal access. We were able to cut our travel time around the South American continent by more than half. And then we sought the island of Hawaii for obvious strategic reasons. Hawaii is in the middle of the Pacific. It's a key link to our building of an empire, building of control of remember, control and influence is part of the considerations. Resources, they had vast amounts of fruit, pineapple and sugarcane primarily. They're strategically located. We built a huge naval port, Pearl Harbor, of which Japan attacked and tried to destroy at the beginning of World War II. And then got a video on that. And then I've got some cartoons I'd like you to take a look at. Pretty interesting, telling cartoons about our political efforts to gain power and control. Okay, and then some more additional resources. As in all of our class presentations, is of course, I'd ask you to fill out these boxes. Again, they're all connected to the class presentation. Just watch the videos, look at the slides, respond to the focusing questions, and it really gives you a good idea of the content the main concepts, the content that we're working with. Okay? And on Thursday, I'm going to share with you this assessment. There are 4 prompts. I'll get into details on Thursday for you, but they're all relating to those 2 class presentations. If you truly look at those class presentations, the global and then the United States, and fill out the organizers, all this will be is just transferring information from those organizers to these prompts. Just pulls it all together for you. But that's for Thursday. So hopefully this was helpful for you. If you attended Monday's class, there's no need to attend Tuesday. It's a repeat of what I said on Monday. If you want to hear it a second time in sort of a different way, I can't repeat it exactly the same way. I'd be happy to. But also if you want to just check in, if you have any questions, I'll be online. I'll be online at 12:10 tomorrow to answer your questions. Wednesday is a flex day, a normal flex day. I will be available that day as well. And then additionally, Thursday, I will share with you this assessment and go through this assessment with you. Okay? Hope you're doing well. Be safe. It's a little stormy outside. And hopefully we'll get through this week and we'll be able to get back into school on Monday. Take care, and thinking of you guys, and hope you're doing well.